My name is Jim DeLucia. I live in Little Falls, New Jersey. I'm with the Knights of Columbus, Monsignor Stein Color Corps. We lost many people in New York and all over the country, and I will never forget.
My name is Catherine. I'm from Wayne, and I think this is a wonderful tribute, and so happy that the Annunciation Church is giving this to us, the public, and loyal Americans. Thank you.
Ronnie McGovern from Wayne, New Jersey. I just want to say a few words. 9/11 has touched all of our hearts. I have a few dear friends who have passed away, and we will think of them every day in our hearts. May there never be another tragedy like that again. Thank you.
It's a dubious honor to be here today, honoring all of our heroes and lay people who suffered through the various 9/11 tragedies. How many years ago? 16 years of memory have gone by. So we're here at the Public Servants Mass here in Annunciation Church in Wayne, New Jersey. It's a way of recognizing not only the people who served or died in the original 9/11, but to remember the people who help us every day: CERT, EMTs, police, firefighters, paramedics, police, and alternate policemen. And we thank you for being with us today. We'll have highlights of the Mass following this program. So thank you for joining us, and pass this on to your family and friends as we remember this day of memory. Father Pastor, Father Peter Duty is our pastor, and he'll be introducing the committee and welcoming us later on. Thank you for joining us, and you'll hear from me again, I'm sure. Father Louis Scurdy with Friends of the Word. God bless you.
16 years ago, our state and nation faced an unprecedented day that tested the resolve of our society and our communities. In this moment of shock and despair, the fabric that holds together the American spirit, one of compassion, selflessness, and courage, was shown to the world in the valiant acts of our firefighters, police officers, EMS responders, federal agents, and ordinary citizens. Today's memorial ceremony provides us the opportunity to not only remember these individuals who performed acts of courage and valor during one of our nation's most harrowing moments, but also to pay tribute to the lives that were lost. Today we join in commemorating our heroes and demonstrating the resiliency, determination, and patriotism that has defined us as Americans. We've received a proclamation from our governor, and it reads, whereas on September 11, 2001, the United States was attacked by terrorists, killing thousands of innocent citizens in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. And whereas in the aftermath of these horrific attacks, thousands of Americans displayed the highest levels of bravery and selflessness, risking or sacrificing their own lives to save their fellow citizens. And whereas on this 16th anniversary of that terrible day, we pay tribute to the police officers, firefighters, EMS responders, federal agents, and ordinary citizens who performed extraordinary acts of courage and valor during our nation's most dire moment of need. And whereas the tragic events of September 11, 2001 have unified our nation against the forces of hatred and oppression and reaffirmed our dedication to the fundamental American ideals of freedom and liberty. And whereas as New Jersey residents gather at memorial ceremonies across the state, we are once again demonstrating the resiliency, determination, and compassion, strength, and patriotism that define us as Americans. Now therefore I, Chris Christie, Governor of the State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim September 11, 2017 as Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance in New Jersey, and urge all residents to honor those who lost their lives 16 years ago, to reflect upon America's proud tradition of freedom and bravery, and to renew our commitment to serving our communities, state, and nation. Given under the hand and the Great Seal of the State of New Jersey, the 6th day of September in the year 2017, 242nd year of the independence of the United States. Signed by our Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno and by our Governor Chris Christie. We thank the Governor for this proclamation, and we pray that today will be a time that we not only remember, but that we imitate the wonderful example of all of our first responders.
Okay, that settles it. Next year, the gospel choir is going to hand out words because Willie is the only one singing up here. I can clap my hands, but that's about it. Aren't they wonderful? Okay.
16 years ago, the unbelievable, the unfathomable happened here in our own country. On September 11th, 2001, our nation was struck by an enemy that we had no idea was present to us. And we had no idea as well how vulnerable we really were to those who would inflict evil and pain on our country and on our people. Since then, we have tried to remember so that we would not forget what happened on that fateful day. The memorials have been many and varied, some more poignant than others, and yet all trying to do the same thing, to help us to remember, to help us not to forget all who were impacted on that very special day. One in particular strikes me this day. Anyone who saw the 2002 Super Bowl saw something there unforgettable, and it had nothing to do with sports. Deacon Greg Kandra captured it this way. He said it was held in New Orleans in the Superdome. The halftime entertainment, you may recall, was Bono of U2. There must have been 100,000 people in the stadium, cheering wildly. Bono stepped onto the stage, and the light dimmed, and the crowd roared, and the band began to play. If you watch the video of that performance, you can hear Bono over the music and the cheering, speaking into his microphone. Lord, open my lips, that my mouth may sing forth your praise. These are the same words that are spoken at the beginning of the Liturgy of the Hours that is celebrated in the Catholic Church. And in fact, what followed turned out to be a kind of prayer. As the song began and the music swelled, behind the stage a massive banner started to rise, coming up from the floor of the stage, rising toward the ceiling hundreds of feet above. Around the world, I imagine millions of viewers were transfixed, stunned, moved by what they were witnessing. On the banner were projected the names of all of those who had died on 9/11 less than 5 months before. And the music continued, and it went on. Bono and U2 singing about a place where the streets have no name. And the banner kept growing, and the list kept getting longer. It seemed like it would never end. Name after name after name, like a visual litany of the lost. And then the banner reached the roof of the Superdome and collapsed, rippling to the floor. And for a brief moment, we were back there, and it all was happening again. To see it so clearly was devastating. There have been so many other tributes and memorials and remembrances since that day, but nothing like that. It was raw and it was real. Tribute was paid to a tragedy that struck New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. There is another quieter tribute, if you will, that has also been given. This comes from a story that was told by Monsignor Ritchie, who was the rector of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York at the time. He said, high above in the ceiling, it looks like stone, but it's really wood. Our firefighters know, and every few months from the local firehouse, they come to inspect that ceiling, and they walk to what they call the lumber yard. And there are windows up there, windows that are crusted with soot and grime from decades past. And the firefighters have a custom of etching their names in those windows. On there are 4 names of firefighters who were here in that cathedral just days before 9/11 and who lost their lives trying to rescue others on that dreadful day that we recall today. Cardinal Archbishop Dolan said that we might renovate this cathedral at some point, but we are never going to clean those windows, because those names are going to remain etched there, as those names remain engraved in our hearts. And then likely in a story found just yesterday in Sunday's Daily Record, Mike Kelly tells us of another phenomena happening at O'Hara's Pub, a pub that was close by where the Twin Towers fell. If you go there, you can find the place thick with police officers, firefighters, and EMS and others who still continue to help anyone and everyone in need in their community. A tradition started there shortly after the tragedy when a construction worker known as Big John set down his beer and he grabbed the shoulder of a New York City firefighter from the nearby Ten House, which had been buried in steel and concrete when the towers fell, and now it was open again. But this was no friendly hug, Kelly said. Big John ripped the blue and red embroidered Ten House patch from the firefighter's uniform, and then, reaching overhead, he stapled the patch to the soffit above the bar. And so it began. Today, O'Hara's Pub at the corner of Cedar and Greenwich Streets is home to 6,000 patches from police and fire departments across the globe. Give or take 1,000, said pub's owner, Michael Kane of Edison. And so we come once again to remember, to reflect, and to pray. To remember who we are as a people and a nation. To reflect on how we will let this impact us in our lives for good or for evil. And pray. Pray for all those who died in this tragedy. Pray for all who tried to help them and their families and who now even suffer from these events. Pray that we will rise from the ashes of this tragedy to find our better selves. I know I will continue to remember. And while it is good for us to come together each year on the anniversary of 9/11, it would be better for us if we would remember each day of the impact of this event in our lives and in those who served on those days. Every time I hear a siren from an ambulance, a fire truck, or a police car, I remember the courageous men and women who rushed into the Twin Towers. Every time I turn on the TV and I hear of another natural disaster occurring somewhere in the world or even here at home, I remember the dedicated individuals who lost their lives rushing into those buildings to help everyone that they could to escape that inferno. And every time I read a newspaper and I hear of the sacrifices that are made by those who have committed their life to service to our communities, I am in awe, and I remember. We will not forget when we turn to honor and worship our God, who is the source of all life, and who draws us into the mystery of his love for us by the life, death, and resurrection of his beloved Son, Jesus Christ. We will not forget when in our daily living we continue to show charitable treatment for others, when we support justice and peace for all. We will not forget when we remember all of the lives that were lost, the martyrs who were born, the heroes who did what no one thought was even possible. We will not forget when we continue to remember sacrifice, courage, and greatness. Today we remember not for the remembrance' sake, but as builders of a new day, a new creation, a new edifice of worship, an edifice not of mortar and brick, not of steel and concrete, but a living structure of the human heart, open to forgiveness, grateful for freedom, filled with hope in the Christ who through us continues the work of redemption. No, my friends, today we shall not forget. Today and all days we shall remember. We shall always remember with gratitude and with joy those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, and we will pray that through their example we will one day also learn to heal hearts and to forgive. May they all rest in God's peace.
celebration has ended. Let's live in peace, loving and respecting one another and God himself. There's a refreshment. That's yours.
One personal thanks. I want to thank Father Lou for pulling all of this together each year. I think it's a wonderful expression for our community. This is a community event. It cannot be just walled in by the four walls of Annunciation Parish. It goes way beyond the walls of this parish. We are so happy that you come here, and I'm so happy that Father Lou takes care of this and makes it happen every year. Thank you, Lou.
I always forget to thank people. Joan McQuinsky is my right-hand person. She was given to me by Father Peter a few years ago to put this together. You think I put it together? She emails me, texts me, and sends smoke signals to me wherever I am throughout the entire summer. How's this? Did I put this right? Puts the program together. Joan is sitting right over there. She has a
Hello, my name is Irvin D., and I'm a member of the Straight and Narrow Gospel Choir. I'm also an alumni at Straight and Narrow, and I just enjoy every year that we get to come to celebrate the 9/11 Memorial Service. We always have to remember those that lost their lives that day. So we come to celebrate in song and in the gospel just to remember those that lost their lives. Thank you.